Welcome to Star Wars The Clone Wars Download. In this episode, we're going to take a look at Deal, No Deal.
Remember, we can't count on anyone.
So we count on ourselves. And maybe Ahsoka.
Maybe.
Ahsoka and Trace accompany Rafa on one of her jobs, even though they might not have been her first choice to help.
I've never been to hyperspace before.
What? See why I tried to hire a different pilot?
The three head to Kessel and the Silver Angel, butting heads along the way, leaving Ahsoka feeling uneasy about the job that's ahead.
Running spice is no simple transport mission.
After seeing the truth of being a spice runner, Trace decides to take matters into her own hands, landing all three of them in an extremely difficult situation with the Pikes.
Patrol ships!
What was that?
That is a tractor beam, Rafa.
We took a deeper dive into Deal, No Deal with cast and crew. Here's what they had to say.
It's interesting to see how connected Ahsoka and Anakin still are. When Trace and Rafa and Ahsoka first fly off in the Silver Angel, and Trace just flies off without clearance and she gets caught. And even I was surprised that Ahsoka and Anakin sense each other. It's really a cool moment to see that they're still connected through the Force, and that it's actually Anakin that allows them to go. It's one of my favorite moments in that episode.
Kessel, how do you separate the two tones? How do you separate like the Kessel that we know from the movies to the Kessel that isn't excavated? And so for that, you immediately draw on films that are the extreme of where we know we're going to Kessel. So we know that Kessel is slaves, mining, rust. So you go for the opposite of that.
I remember Dave first telling us about Trace and Rafa. I really like the different characteristics. I mean, the voice actresses for both of them did such an outstanding job. We really tried to lay into Rafa, her attitude of being the older sister. We wanted Rafa to really talk with her hands a lot, so we really kind of tried to incorporate that a bit more. And then Trace is just the one you identify with. She's the one who is in this situation, but she wants to be better. She doesn't want to be doing these jobs, but she has to in order to survive. They're really cool characters.
Trace and Rafa, they're an interesting pair. They're doing what they need to do to survive. They probably feel, even though they're on Coruscant, if there's a bright center of the universe, we're in the places farthest from. I always felt that we all feel that way. I love my home. I love where I grew up, but I had to get out. And I think it changes your perspective when you take your first step into a larger world and you see the world as other people experience it, and different cultures, different customs, different ways of doing things. It gives you appreciation for where you're from, but also an understanding and a compassion for where you are and what other people deal with. And so all these things that we experience make up our stories, make up Star Wars.
We definitely see Ahsoka struggle quite a bit in these episodes. She's struggling between, I'm no longer a Jedi, but yet I still have these powers and these abilities, and she tries not to use them. It's almost like, no, I walked away from the Jedi and I'm walking away from that life altogether. But then she finds herself in some hot water, because let's face it, Trace and Rafa put her in a situation where they're in over their heads, and quite frankly, they need Ahsoka to get out of the trouble that they've gotten themselves into. So over the course of these episodes, we watch Ahsoka come to terms with the fact of, she's not using these powers to be a Jedi. She's using her powers to help people.
Last week we asked for your questions about Gone with the Trace. Serena Reeds asked, in episode 5, I noticed a lighting technique similar to the lighting in Star Wars Resistance, and it got me thinking, how did the animation style of Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance influence the animation of the final Clone Wars season? Joel Aaron, director of cinematography lighting, answered, yes, you are correct in noticing, as we did apply a lot of what we learned on Resistance and Rebels with the team's honed skills at understanding cinematography. This starts with our story team, who place and move the cameras to frame the shots, all the way to the methods that the lighting team at the end of the production pipeline used to emulate the depth of field of a specific set of lenses for the final look, and ultimately place the lights in the scene that give it all that cinematic mood. We are ever growing in our ability of lighting and compositing shots that have a cinematic Star Wars soul. Not a single shot we do is ever just lit. We are merging together the crafts mastered in the last 2 shows into what you see today. Have any burning questions about Deal No Deal? Tweet us your questions using the hashtag #CloneWarsDownload, and maybe you'll see your question answered on the show. Want to learn more about this episode? Head to StarWars.com/DealNoDeal to check out the episode guide. And don't forget to check back next week for our deep dive into Dangerous Debt.